this amazing pro bono job of helping your society go solar. As Neha mentioned, a lot of our discussion today will be focused about how do you enable your society to go solar, right? What are the key processes that we have seen over the last 7 years that we have been working with housing societies? What are the best practices that housing societies are adopted to A, figure out the viability of solar for the society? Secondly, how do you go about convincing your other residents, fellow members about this decision? Because as we all know, any decision in a housing society is a democratic decision, correct? And democracy has its own perils. The whole focus will be around this. We'll keep the session very crisp and short. We'll cover the major things. Please feel free to write in all your questions in the Q&A session. During the session, I'll try to take as many of them as possible. However, we'll part the last 15 minutes of the session primarily to answer those questions in detail, right? With that being said, let's get started.
Yeah. Anshuman, before we begin, I am actually launching a quick poll on the screen. I think it's like just a check. So audience, we want to know how soon are you planning to go solar, within 1 month, within 2 to 3 months, or are you looking at installing solar for, more than 6 months?
Sneha is very eager just to know where we all of us stand in terms of this decision making. So it will be
Yes,
great if
yes.
everybody
And
can.
a lot of them are saying within 30 days and 2 to 3 months. Like only about 10 to 15% are saying more than 6 months. I think we have a very, very eager audience today, Anshuman.
Wow, very nice. I think we have done this in a timely manner.
Yes, of
That's it.
course. All right. Okay. Good to see the participation today. Um, I'll just share the results on screen very quickly. Okay. All right. Anshuman, I think we should
But
we should
it,
move
it
ahead.
makes sense for everyone. Sometimes the decision making is longer. So best time to go solar. First and foremost, right? Why should any housing society go solar, right? Why is this whole phenomena about going solar being so prevalent? We read about it in news. We hear it from our fellow members. Why is it so pertinent to go solar right now? Primarily from two reasons, right? A, it is one of the best investment that an individual or a housing society can today make to save money, right? If we generally categorize the expenses of a housing society, right, you can broadly put them into four buckets, right? One is the electricity bills that covers all your maintenance, common area maintenance, your elevators, your water pumps, etc. Another significant chunk is the money that a society pays on water, right? Water facilities. Another chunk is the money that we spend on maintenance, securities, and other activities. And the rest part is the other amenities that a society will avail, right? If you look at four of all these four buckets, right? Uh, with amenities, there are essential amenities like MyGate, Park Plus, etc., which are very essential for smooth running of a society. If you're talking about maintenance and security, there is only a certain level to which you can reduce these expenses. Correct? You can install more more CCTVs on your campuses and reduce the number of guards probably that you have in your society. But there's at least a minimum expense that will always occur. Water is very essential. It's something that's everybody keeps saying, right? Like the next world war is going to be fought over water. So again, something that beyond rainwater harvesting and other means, very very little to do for us to kind of reduce our expenses. When we look at electricity consumption, right? It forms a very significant chunk of our society's monthly expense, right? It's a very, very generally it's the top or the second most highest expense that a society has. Secondly, with today's advancement in solar technology, with the government's focus on subsidy, right, and the stability of the whole ecosystem around solar, right? Today, you can reduce your electricity bill to the tune of 90%, right? So, as an investment of saving money, there is nothing better than solar. The returns on solar on today's economics at the grid rate and the solar economics itself, which comprises subsidy as well, is at least 3 to 4 times higher than any investment that we do in FD, right? So from that terms, if you look at it, very, very critical motion of going solar. That's why you see since the beginning of this year, right? The solar industry has just exploded, right? The market is growing at a 10x rate. There are housing societies, individual people who are going solar left, right, and center because everybody feels that brunt, right, of having a very high electricity bill sitting on your table at the end of the month where you have to pay that money. So our focus is primarily going to be on this segment today. Right. So let's quickly understand when we say the economics of solar, right? How does it primarily work? So we have taken a very generic example, right? Of course, it will depend from society to society. But just to understand, let's say a society whose requirement is 100 kilowatts, right? Now a 100 kilowatt society translates to 1 lakh unit of consumption per month, right? So you can basically do this back of the hand calculation in terms of gauging your requirement. 1 unit of solar will give you around about 100 units of electricity every month. So looking at your consumption, if you have 1 lakh units, you primarily are looking at 100 kilowatt of solar system. This particular system, right? If you're talking about Maharashtra, which comes under the MSEDEL discom, will save you annually 28 lakh rupees, right? Now this savings translates separately in different discoms depending on the grid rate. Under MSEDCL, it ranges anywhere between 90 to 21 rupees. In Bangalore, it ranges between 7 to 10 rupees. In Hyderabad, also, it ranges between 9 to 11 rupees. So depending on that, your savings might differ. We'll also take you through that. However, one thing that is fixed, the central subsidy, right, is a very significant quantum of money that comes to the society directly, right? So for a 100 kilowatt system, the government gives you 18 lakh rupees directly transferred to the society's account. This whole subsidy gets transferred after the plant has become live, right? So if I generally look at it, right, for a 100 kilowatt plant in, let's say, city like Pune, we are looking at a saving of 46 lakhs just in year one, right? Uh, your break-even period, which means if you're investing 100 rupees, how quickly can you recover that 100 rupees is 1.1 years, 13 months in Pune as of today, right? Uh, so if you look at this, right, a solar system which is designed to last for 25 years breaks even in almost 1.5 years, right? For any society under MSEDCL, if you're talking about Mumbai, if you're in Adani or you're in Tata, you're looking at a break even of around 2.5 years. If you're in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi, you're looking at a break even of somewhere between 3.5, 4 years, right? So as an investment, right, this is a very long-term asset that your society has, which will keep on giving you savings over a period of 25 years. Your break-even periods today are very, very short, right? Also, unlike a lot many things, the benefits of solar keep increasing, right? We all know the grid tariffs, the rate of electricity at which you keep paying electricity bill are never going to come down, right? They're only going to go up. So if today you're paying at 8 rupees, 5 years down the line, you'll be paying 10 rupees a unit. Your solar will still keep producing, let's say, instead of 1 lakh unit, 90,000 units. So your overall savings kind of skyrockets because of that as well, right? If you have any questions around the payback period, etc., feel free to type in. We'll again take it towards the end of the session, right? So a quick snapshot in terms of how these break-evens look like. Like I said, in Mumbai, and if you're under MSEDCL, if your grid rate is higher, you're looking at a break-even of 1.1 years. Tata Adani, you're looking at 1.5 to 2 years. In Bescom, you're looking at Bangalore, you're looking at 3 to 4 years. Same with Delhi NCR, same with Hyderabad. So all across, if you're from any part of India, right, you're investing in a 25-year asset which breaks even in 3 years. And to top it off, right, one of the key ingredients of solar is that unlike other energy saving equipment, so for example, let's say you put up smart lights in your system, in your housing society, right? Like these lights which only activate when somebody's present and otherwise they shut down. These also help reduce your electricity consumption. Whenever you're talking about, you'll do a energy audit in terms of understanding what kind of investment am I looking at, what kind of savings I will be able to look at. You will always get a very tentative quote. Okay, sir, if you do this, your electricity bill will come down by 5-10%. The savings in solar are very, very real, trackable, and deliverable. What do I mean by that? Every unit of electricity that you produce through solar, you know you're going to get its benefit because you will not have to pay the grid tariff on it, right? As simple as that. It is trackable because the generation is always tracked live, A, by your vendor as well, but by you as well, and by the discom also, right? So it's very trackable. You can actually monitor how well is my plant doing, what are my savings on a monthly level, right? And hence, figuring out these payback periods, it's very, very, comfortable assessment to make in terms of where your break-even period might come. Cool, let's move ahead. Once we have understood the requirements of solar, what does it look like? So here, just a key example of one of our societies in Bangalore. This is Shobha Dewflower. They installed a plant almost 3.5 years ago with SolarSquare. We have multiple societies of Shobha today with us. In the last 3.5 years, they have saved 51 lakh rupees of savings. And back in 2021, unfortunately, this huge incentive around subsidy also didn't exist. Otherwise, they would have been able to avail subsidy of upwards of 40 lakhs as well, which is available now, but wasn't back then. They save around 15 lakh rupees every year in savings, right? Even after 3.5 years, the generation is doing fantastic. They are producing 1,450 units per kilowatt. So invested 3.5 years ago, no subsidy. And even then, they have recovered 70% of the investment till date, right? This is a plant which is 3.5 years ago. We'll be very happy to, provide reference as well if in case you want to just understand how their experience has been. So when you're making this assessment, right, in a housing society, it is very, very critical that we bring the confidence level of all our members that it's going to be a significant investment. The break-evens will come or don't come. One of the most important things that I've figured out is being a management committee member. It's a very thankless job, right? We all do it on a pro bono basis. All the risk and lie at your head. If the decision to go solar does well, right? People might congratulate you, might say you did a fantastic job, might not even do it. But if we are investing somewhere, let's say 30, 50 lakhs, 1 crore rupees of a society's fund, and if there are any issues, if the break-even moves, etc., there's a lot of trepidation around it, right? Like everybody will come and ask us questions. And hence, all this discussion around the break-evens, the stability of the system, etc., are very, very critical. Only once the management committees is kind of convinced that these break-evens are real, will you be able to convince others as well. Another society, Ganga Ishanya, this is a society that we have picked from Pune. They went solar very, very recently, almost 6 months back. In the last 6 months, they have saved 15 lakh rupees in the electricity bills. Again, February, they didn't get a subsidy. The system wasn't available then. They save around 2.5 lakh rupees every month. One of the great things about Ganga Ishanya is once they have gone solar, now they don't end up paying anything in the electricity bill, right? The generations are doing well. The society is very happy. The electricity bills have really come down.
Right. Anshuman, before we proceed, I think there's a question that is extremely relevant to what we are speaking right now. So Prakashji is asking that, how do we calculate break even? If you could help him, with the formula or sort of, how do we go about
So,
it?
so let me take a very, very simple example, correct? So how we look at it, let's say my initial investment in my solar plant is 1 lakh rupees, right? That is the investment that I'm doing in a solar plant. Let's say my annual savings from my solar plant is 25,000 rupees, right? And let's say another 25,000 rupees is the subsidy that I'm getting, right? So break-even period is very, very simple. I invested 1 lakh rupees. In year one, I got 50,000 rupees back. In year two, the subsidy I will only get one, so I will only save the electricity, which is 25,000. In year three, I will save another 25,000. So by the end of year three, I have recovered all the investment that I had made. And every saving that I do after this period is the additional benefit that I will accrue, right? So if I'm making an investment, I want the shortest amount of break-even period so that I have the longest time of taking a returns. So if your break-even period is 3 years, you get solar benefits for 22 years. If the break-even is, let's say, 1 year, then your savings maximize over 24-year period. I hope that answers the question, sir. Cool. So when we talked about the solar economics, one big component today was around subsidy. Now, all of us are afraid of this term subsidy, right? There's so many noise around, यार गवर्नमेंट का सब्सिडी है, आता नहीं है, पहले बोल देते हैं, फिर बहुत चेज करना पड़ता है गवर्नमेंट को, एक एक दो दो साल तक कौन पीछे पड़ता रहेगा, इससे बेटर है इसको कंसिडर ही नहीं करना चाहिए. There's a lot of noise around this, right? Over the last 1.5 years, the government of India has done tremendous efforts and advancement in terms of simplifying the whole subsidy process and bringing visibility to everybody around how this process looks like, how fast it works, right? So first and foremost, what is the subsidy that is available to a housing society? So any RWA or a housing society or a group housing society gets a subsidy of 18,000 rupees per kilowatt up to a limit of 500 kilowatts, right? So any society which uses solar, whether for their common area maintenance or some residents have also put up, cumulatively, the subsidy amount will be capped at 500 kilowatts, right? 18,000 rupees per kilowatt for a 100 kilowatt society translates into 18 lakh rupees. So a subsidy for a 500 kilowatt plant, the maximum subsidy that you can avail is 90 lakh rupees, right? Just to share with you, we have taken a society called Godrej Infinity in Pune Solar. It was a 400 kilowatt society. Just yesterday, they have received 70 lakh worth of subsidy in their account, right? So they were very, very happy. And now, once the subsidy has come about, they're also looking at, going an extension. My perspective is all this information about subsidy, right? The government has created one portal. It is called PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. You yourself as a resident can log into this portal. You can enter your electricity consumer number, whether your society or your flat itself, doesn't matter. Once you register there, you will see multiple boxes. One box will show you what are the empaneled vendors in your area who work under this particular program and what is their experience. How many installations have they done under this scheme will be visible to you at a click of a button, right? So very transparently available to you. Also, the whole subsidy process, it is a 10-step process that has to happen. It is updated real time on that particular portal. So you as a consumer or I as a vendor or the government MNRE as a central agency all see the same progress bar for the project. So you are able to track what is happening. All of this is trackable, very, very transparent, simple system that the government has made, right? And hence, there was some delays in the subsidies getting disbursed during the election period because there was a model code of conduct and generally subsidy disbursements take place. But now subsidies have again started picking up pace, right? We generally say, according to MNRE, the subsidy dispersal period is between 60 to 90 days, right? So the maximum time limit for subsidy dispersal is 90 days after your plant has gotten commissioned. But we have seen this period actually being 30 to 60 days, right? So when we talk about subsidy, we'll also convey the same to you. What are the things that you have to consider while thinking of, how do I ensure that I get subsidy? Only two things you have to keep in mind. One, select a vendor who is empaneled under your discom. You can go to this portal, you can register and you can select empaneled vendors. You'll get the laundry list of all the vendors that work in your discom. Select any one of those vendors. Second thing is, when you're selecting your solar panels, please ensure that you use solar panels which are DCR. DCR implies domestic content requirement, right? What it basically means, your solar panels, the manufacturer of the solar panel has to be an Indian, a brand like Adani, Premier, Wari, Tata. However, the solar cells which are used under these solar panels also have to be Indian. So let's say a brand like Adani will produce DCR solar panels. It will also produce non-DCR solar panels, right? Where they use Chinese solar cells. For subsidy project, because it is being subsidized by the government of India, they mandate that you use DCR solar panels. Now, DCR solar panels are traditionally a little more expensive than non-DCR solar panels, to the tune of anywhere between 6,000 to 8,000 rupees per kilowatt. But because the subsidy is 18,000 rupees per kilowatt, net you still get a benefit of 10 to 12,000 rupees per kilowatt extra if you go with a subsidized product, right? So
Right.
just to share our experience with it, over the last 1.5 years, we have helped more than 3,000 customers and 30 housing societies go solar under this scheme and get their subsidy on time, right? So coming from a vast experience, I will tell you, if you just consider these two things, you should not face any delays or any issues with your subsidy dispersal.
Right, Anshuman. Anshuman, while you're on the topic of subsidy, I'll just quickly take two relevant questions. Harshi is asking that is the 18,000 per kilowatt subsidy for residential housing societies provided by the central government, or is it offered by the state government through MSC DCL?
So, sir, the subsidy is provided directly by MNRE, right? MNRE is the nodal agency for all subsidy dispersals. These dispersals happen directly to your bank account. MSc DCL is the execution agency for this. So what they are considered about is the process of going solar, right? Which is sanctioned, net metering has happened or not. They are basically only concerned with ensuring and confirming to MNRE, okay, this society was eligible to go solar and this society has now gone solar. The whole subsidy dispersal has been kept with under MNRE.
Thank you, Anshuman. Anshuman, someone is asking that government subsidy, till when is this scheme open? Is it just for 1 year?
So, sir, as per the government has a very ambitious plan of taking 1 crore home solar in the next 3 years. They have made a budget allocation of 71,000 crores over these next 3 years. So this subsidies timeline is 3 years. However, it is all subject to the funds being available. So like I told you, since this announcement, the industry has grown 10x, right? Today, there are 60,000 homes which are going solar every month. And there are probably about 100 or 200 housing societies which are going solar every month, right? So this subsidy, the timeline is 3 years, but it is only available till we have this budget allocation of 71,000 crores. Cool. So if I think all the questions around the solar viability for housing society have been answered,
Yeah.
the next important question is when we are going to our residents, right? What are the major concerns that generally occur through the residents or even a management committee, right? If we broadly categorize these concerns, right? These concerns are regarding the safety around solar. You're going to put up this huge, massive infrastructure on your terrace. It is a proper big ass, uh, sorry, power producing machine that is going to be put up. What are the checks and balances that you have to keep in touch to ensure that from a safety aspects, the society is safeguarded, right? The second aspect is primarily around how do we go about selecting the right vendor for this particular process. The third is what is my reoccurring cost gonna look like, right? Okay, today, Anshuman, you have told me, the break even looks like this, but let's say the plant breaks down after 4 years, right? My break even goes to zero. So how do you as MC members take a very informed choice and safeguard yourself against this, right? So these are the next line of topics that we will take up. First, let's pick up safety, right? Because I think in a housing society where all of us live, where our families live, everybody's roaming around, safety is something that should never be compromised, right? I think all of us can agree that even if the break even moves by 1 month or 2 months, it's okay as long as the safety aspects for a 25-year project is very, very critical, right? When we are looking at investing in an apartment or a society, we generally look at what is the experience in ensuring the structure integrity, by maintenance कैसा रहता है, water leakage तो नहीं start हो जाता, right? Same thing, right? The same consideration also has to go when you're talking about solar for housing society, right? So around safety, right? Another subdivision, 4 major points. The first major point is how do I ensure that this whole structure that I build on the top of my terrace, right, is safe? What do I mean by it? All of us remember that in the month of May, we had a windstorm which came to Mumbai, right? And you saw this horrible images of these huge billboards, these huge structures just collapsing when the wind came, right? Horrible, horrible scenes. Can we take a guess? And I would love to see your responses. What was the maximum wind speed for that wind, this gust of wind that had come? Any guesses? If we can, you can just type, right? We all remember those images from May. Those wind speeds, right? The maximum wind speed was clocked at 90 kilometers per hour, right? That's it. And you could see what it could do to these non-engineered products, right? Similarly, in a housing society, you are looking at a structure which is going to be based on the top of your society. Now, anyway, because of crunch of space, all our societies have grown, very vertically upwards. There, the risk of wind, just accentuates. It just increases tremendously. One solar panel, right? One solar panel, which is a 2 meter by 1 meter dimension, weighs anywhere between 27 to 30 kgs, right? So if you're looking at a 100 kilowatt plant, right, we are primarily looking at somewhere close to 180 solar panels. And if you're looking at 180 solar panels, right, you're looking at 5.4 tons of just the structures, just the weight of the panel, right? Over that, you have these elevated structures जिनके ऊपर आप solar panels install करोगे, उनका भी कुछ weight होता है, right? So another crucial matters is here how we as management committees ensure कि all these structures are safe, right? What are we going to do about it, right? Second aspect of safety comes in terms of the electrical aspect of it, right? Now, depending on the technology of solar inverter that we choose, a solar system can operate anywhere between 600 to 1000 volt DC output, right? Now, you can all imagine in our house, we get an AC electricity of, 220 to 240 hertz, which is, even if you catch a live wire, it's on the downphase, you can just snatch your hand away. This is DC electricity, which is getting produced on your terrace, right? How do we ensure that all the electrical systems are correctly implemented? Today, we are not going to find a fault in terms of something getting short circuited, right? Which might cause issues on the terrace or to our existing systems that are placed there, right? The third aspect of safety is with respect to waterproofing, right? A big chunk of a society's investment is done in maintenance jobs like painting, waterproofing, etc. If I'm going to install these panels, how do I ensure that there's no water leakage issues that I face tomorrow? Now, this is a very, very important and pertinent concern of especially of the residents of the top floors, right? Because ultimately the solar is getting installed for every member, benefit of every member who lives in the society, right? The maintenance bill of every member comes down. But the primary risk lies with the top residents. So there are two things that we can do to kind of safeguard these things. And I'll quickly come to all those aspects as well. The fourth aspect is maintenance, right? How do we ensure that once we install a system, right? We keep hearing this about a lot of other projects, right? कि हमने यार वो प्रोजेक्ट तो लगाया था, पहले तो अच्छा चला, थोड़े टाइम बाद उसने काम करना बंद कर दिया था, रिटर्न्स dwindled, and after that nobody has come to run around it, right? So around these four things, and we will also share these things around the structure safety. Please ensure that your vendor submits you the drawings for the wind speeds prevalent in your city, right? So the Indian standards are clearly defined. It is an Indian standard called IS 875 Part 3. You can also Google it. We can also share a table if need be. For every city, the wind zones are defined, right? So for example, for Pune, the wind speeds are 44 meter per second. For Bangalore, there's a 33 meter per second. For Mumbai, it is 39 meter per second. And depending on the number of floors, right, there is a certain strength that has to be given to your structures. There is a certain safety design that has to be put in place so that all kind of wind pressures are taken account for. Whenever you are selecting a vendor, please ask them how are they going to safeguard this. Are they adhering to these standards or not? Right? These are general standards which adhere to not just solar plants, but every installation on high-rise buildings. Right? When we come to electrical safety, there is another international electrical standard. It is called ISC 62446-1. It just rectifies that what is the kind of loading, what are the kind of tests that have to be done after installation, which will ensure that your plant is running fine. All the connections, etc., have been put safely, right? Now, you can ask your vendor to submit a report for these standards for a very small amount. There are a multiple of third party agencies who will come and do these tests for you as well, right? So one of the recommendations that we give to societies is if you're investing a big amount, uh, invest a little bit more, but be on a safer side, right? Ask these third parties to do this test so that you can hold, any shortfall that is there. If there are any issues in terms of executing the project, beforehand the plant goes live. You can ask your vendors to rectify all those things, right? The third part, when we talk about waterproofing, Sneha, if we can be on the last one, yeah. If we can, when we are talking about waterproofing, there are two things that we can do. One is we can go for a anchoring system. It's called chemical anchoring, right? Now there are companies like Hilti, Fisher, which provide these chemical anchors, which safeguard you against any damage to your, your slab, mother slab and waterproofing layer below that, right? So ask your vendors whether they are going for a penetrative, which means they have to drill into your mother slab and then do the installation, or they are going for a non-penetrative method where they do not do any penetration. If they are going for a penetrative method, please ask them to ensure they use chemical anchoring as a process. It is the same process which is used in dams for water leakage prevention, right? In a non-penetrative system, you basically create a dead load, right? So over your mother slab, you will create a huge concrete blocks, which will provide the dead load against which your structures can be raised. So if tomorrow wind comes and the structures are pushed upwards, these dead loads are able to hold them up. Unfortunately, I have seen very often in some of the installations that the vendors do not provide enough dead load for the system. And hence, when a wind will come, if it doesn't have enough dead weight, it will just lift the solar panels from the root and everything will collapse. A general rule of thumb, again, it will vary depending on which, what is the height of your society. If your height of society is higher, you go up. But generally, you are looking at a dead weight of 700 kgs per kilowatt for a elevated structure, which is 6 feet in height. This kind of dead weight is good enough to prevent, issues with, your plant's safety when a strong wind gust comes, right? According to the Indian standards, your solar plants have to be designed and implemented for wind speeds of 150 kilometers per hour, right? The international standards qualify somewhere between 170 to 180 kilometers per hour. Indian standards में at least 170 kilometers per hour पे तो आपके structures बने ही होने चाहिए. Coming back, if you remember, I told you that the windstorms that we saw in Mumbai, the maximum wind velocity was 90 kilometers per hour, right? So, like I said, it's a 25-year project. Very, very important. We take some care in ensuring that the project will last for the duration of its lifetime. And the last thing, maintenance, right? This 100 kilowatt solar system produces 1 lakh of electricity, right? It is a mini power station that you're going to install on your plant, right? To maintain it, right, while it's operational, you need a team of trained professionals who kind of do that. It is not a job for, your maintenance team or your, your security guards or anybody like that, right? You need trained professionals for this who know what are the safety precautions have to be taken, what are the right process and method of maintaining your plant. So please ensure that you ask for these things whenever you are talking to a vendor about going solar. You can also come, assure your residents that these are the basic checkpoints that you are going to enlist to ensure the safety of a solar plant from multiple aspects. Any questions related to this, Sneha, that I should answer before we move to the next section?
Yes, just
Meanwhile, I just take a sip of water.
So, yeah, sure. Harshi is asking that our society faces a major concern as many members are not willing to permit anchoring or drilling on the terrace. Do you have any solutions or alternatives where solar structures can be installed without drilling or damaging the terrace?
Correct. So Harshi, mostly societies in Bangalore, or we have seen societies which are 10-15 years older, go with a non-penetrative method. In a non-penetrative method, like I mentioned, instead of drilling anything on your terrace, you create a civil block over the terrace, right, which provides a dead load over which your solar plants have to be installed. In this, please ensure a couple of things. Like I said, A, the dead load should be at least 700 kgs per kilowatt. Anything below that, it will not provide enough, uh, downforce in terms of wind. The second thing is, some people use something called a NATO bond, right? It is basically an adhesive for two solid materials to stick around. Uh, Again, it is not something that I will advise. It is, there are execution issues in terms of ensuring that the NATO bond is done properly across all the surfaces. अगर वो कहीं से भी weak होगा तो आपका plant can uproot from there, right? The second thing is that to apply the NATO bond also properly, you have to chip the mother slab. So it might just negate the requirement of the society itself. Hence, simple and safer, go with a bigger dead load, non-penetrative method for your society.
All right, Anjuman, we can move on.
Great. Cool. Let's move to the next theme. अंशुमन, all said and good, समझ में आ गया कैसे सेविंग्स होती है, समझ में आ गया कि भाई क्या क्या चीजें ध्यान में रखनी है. But what if, right? My solar plant doesn't produce what it does, right? I have heard that no, the solar generation is very, very variable, dependable नहीं है, right? Sometimes winds come, sometimes कुछ हो जाता है. How do we ensure that all my savings are dependent on मेरा प्लांट कितने टाइम तक ऑन रहता है एंड उसका जनरेशन कितना है, राइट? इवन इन जनरेशन वी कीप हेयरिंग दिस रैंडम नंबर्स. कहीं पे कोई बोलता है कि 3.5 यूनिट पर डे बनाता है, कहीं कहीं जगह 6 यूनिट भी सुना है. हाउ डज दिस ऑल वर्क, राइट? हाउ डू आई इंश्योर that the input that I've taken in my ROI calculation, which is primarily कि यार इतना मेरा जनरेशन होगा, this is my grid tariff, this multiplied generation into grid tariff is going to be my savings. How do I ensure these things happen, right? First and foremost, select the right vendor. What do I mean by right vendor? Somebody who has experience, right? Somebody who has experience of installing large scale projects, right? Look at vendors who have at least 3 to 10 years of experience. Look at vendors who have done solar installations in high-rise buildings in your region, right? Like I said, all of this is now easily available thanks to Government of India. You can go to the PM Surya Ghar Yojana portal, check for vendors and their instrument. Second is check for credentials, right? Because you are going to be the promoters of solar project within your society. Please take out that time to do some bit of credential checks, right? Couple of things that you can do. A, at least visit 2 projects of the vendor, which are at least 1 year old or before. See, solar is a 25-year project, है ना? Fairly stable technology. In the first year, there is very little wear and tear and very little issues that you will come across. It is only after 1 year and later, right, that you will actually get to know how is the plant performing, what is the drop off in its performance, etc. So at least visit 2 plants which are 1 year or older. This will give you a clear idea about, whether the vendor who has given you certain promises is able to uphold them. What is the long-term performance, right? Another thing that you can do is look at, does that it does that vendor have any recommendations, certifications by third-party agencies, right? Like I was talking to you about the electrical audit, right? The IEC 6225-1 agency. There are certain agencies like Underwriters Laboratory, TUV, etc., which also give certifications on plant execution quality. So see those, if your vendor has some of those, look how their Google reviews are, talk to some of the other management committee members who have gone solar under those things, right? A good quality of, these checks are really helpful. Because see, one thing you have to understand, and you will realize this as soon as you go on that portal and check the list of vendors, right? Because of this subsidy scheme, you will find a vendor popping up left, right, and center everywhere, right? Most of these vendors are 1 to 2 years old. I think in Maharashtra, we have somewhere close to 400 vendors registered under this thing, right? So very, very important. There is some sort of truth in terms of what the experience is, whether the company has the wherewithal to run this project, because you're going to, build a partnership over 25 years, right? If let's say the one vendor is a one-man army. So let's say if Anshuman has a company of his own, today Anshuman will deliver everything that is there. But let's say tomorrow something happens to me, right? Right? You should be investing in a organization and not a person to a large extent, right? Because organizations last, right? There's a high chances. Third, I talked about teams. Look at vendors who have their in-house teams. When I talk about in-house, I'm primarily talking about the installation team. काफी सारे vendors के, they just give installations to third party with no relationships. तो उनको quality checks कम रहते हैं. Check for vendors who have their own O&M teams कि भाई मेरे को plant का maintenance करना है तो मेरी team है उसी को मैं train कर पाऊंगा. Correct? So do these basic checks and balances. One thing that we advise all our housing societies is ask for their last 3 years of revenue, right? Ask how many team members they have in the team, because all these things will give you an idea about the stability of the company, of the range of execution of that company. And the last is the technology, safety, engineering product. Like I said, we already discussed some of the key things that we have to keep in mind while selecting the right technology and the right maintenance plan to upkeep the plan, right? So both 4 product categories, let me revise: experience, credentials, teams, and the technology being offered to you, right? If we do this right, 9 out of 10 times your solar system will outperform your expectations, right? We have a 10-year experience within that. I have worked with SolarSquare for the last 5 years. I was there when we installed the first solar in a house. Over the last 5 years now, we have done installations over 10,000 homes. So at least personally for me, I have seen this experience of mine as well. If you take care of all these things, 9 out of 10 times your plant will perform very well. Go to the next one. Super. So now that we have talked about,
I think, before we get into the financing your solar, I want to quickly again take a poll from our audience right now. 1 second. So audience, I want to know, how are you planning to invest in solar? Of course, we're going to be giving you solid, solutions, but just wanted to quickly understand your, all right. Uh, Anshuman, I think it's almost neck to neck. 59% of them have said that they would fund their solar through loans, and 41% have said that they would dip into the society funds.
super. So we have the midway split. I think during all our
Yeah.
polls, we have got a really nice mix across all categories. So like I said, something for everyone we have. So another major pertinent, right? हमें समझ में आ गया solar. Why should we go solar? We have understood what are the things to be considered. Okay, we have understood how to identify the solar. But yeah, most importantly, where do we find the funds? What is the right method of investing in the solar, right? So today, like in other aspects to put, solar adoption, a lot of financing options have also flooded the market. These can primarily be categorized into 3, right? One is a CAPEX model. Now, in a CAPEX model, it is primarily, let's say you are a housing society which has enough funds. You say, okay, let's say my investment is 50 lakh rupees. I have 50 lakh rupees with me. I will invest this 50 lakh rupees. I will get subsidy of 80 lakh rupees. My net investment 32 lakh rupees. Here, you get the highest ROI system, right? Highest ROI, right? Quickest break even is achieved. What are the subtle limitations? A, your society has to have these funds, right? Now, these funds can be arranged by societies which have a longer tenure, but let's say if your society is 3, 5 years old, very, very difficult to find, this amount of money parked aside. Second thing, you also might have other things that you might have to take care of, right? Let's say you have a painting job to do, or you have to install a STP or whatever, right? So you might not want to invest all the money you have in one particular basket, right? So in that scenario, you have two other options. One option which everybody is very keen to know about is called the OPEX model. It is also known as RESCO model. Now, what happens is, in this particular model, a society doesn't invest anything from their pocket to go solar, right? Basically, an external investor invests and funds your plant. He signs a agreement with the society saying that for every unit of electricity that is produced, you pay me a certain tariff. So let's say I'm living in Pune and I'm paying a tariff of 21 rupees. I can ask an investor to come and invest in my plant. And he might say, okay, I'm investing this much amount. For the next 10 years, you pay me a tariff of 10 rupees, right? So in a CAPEX model where, you would have, for every unit of electricity saved, you would have saved 21 rupees. Here, for every unit of electricity made, you will save 11 rupees. 21 is what you were paying. 10 is what you will now pay to the investor. So ultimately, you are looking at a 11 rupees being saved in your pocket. What are the pros? A, very, very low to no investment. The only investment that you have to make in this particular segment is you have to give a certain amount of security deposit to the investor for the tenure of this agreement. Now, this agreement can be 5 years, this agreement can be 10 years, it can also be 15 years, right? So, उतने time के लिए आपको एक security deposit, generally it ranges between 10 to 15% of your project cost, वो आपको जाके investor के पास पार्क कर रखना पड़ता है as a safety precaution. Otherwise, everything else is funded. After the tenure is completed, this amount is given back to the society as well as the rights to solar. So जब तक का आपका ये पीपी एग्रीमेंट है, जब तक आपका वो है, the asset belongs to the investor. एक बार वो टर्म खत्म हो जाता है तो आपका सिक्योरिटी डिपॉजिट भी आपको वापस मिल जाता है, and the plant is also given back to the society. But what are the limitations of this particular product? पहला इसका limitations है कि आपकी जो savings है वो फॉर द टेन्योर ऑफ द प्रोडक्ट रिड्यूस हो जाती है, कंस्ट्रेंट हो जाती है, राइट? एनी इन्वेस्टर हु इज लुकिंग एट दिस इन्वेस्टमेंट इज लुकिंग एट एटलीस्ट 25 to 30% रिटर्न इज इन हिज ओन इन्वेस्टमेंट. तो आपके प्लांट के ओवरऑल इन्वेस्टमेंट में से 25 to 30% तो इन्वेस्टर अपने पास लेगा, राइट? द रेस्ट विल बी योर सेविंग्स. Another big con under this project is, as of today, the government of India came up with a declaration or clarification around this in July. As of today, there is no subsidy which is applicable on OPEX project, right? So आज की डेट पे OPEX पे जो 80 लाख रुपीस की सब्सिडी है वो एप्लीकेबल नहीं होती है, right? 80 lakh is for 100 kilowatts, 18,000 rupees per kilowatt. Yes, that subsidy is not applicable for OPEX project. Recently, the government of India has come up with a draft proposal saying ki, it's a draft proposal. So they have asked, the last date I think is 27 September. They have asked for people to give their recommendations, etc. To enable subsidy in OPEX project also. As of today, there's no subsidy applicable, right? Because the asset belongs to the investor and not the society. So they don't get the subsidy to the society as of today. This also has slower break-even, मतलब break-even तो fast होता है, but slower returns over a period because आप एक investor को पैसा दे रहे हो. The third aspect, which is the best of both OPEX and CAPEX, is financing models through loans, either by your own bank or through NBFCs, right? So within that, how does this model work? So let's say my investment in a solar plant is 50 lakh rupees, right? Give or take, that is the cost for, let's say, 100 kilowatt plant. you have to invest 20 to 30% of the money as margin money as the down payment for your solar plant, right? So that comes out to be anywhere between, for a 50 kilowatt plant, 10 to 15 lakh rupees you have to invest, right? The rest of the amount, right, is financed through either a bank or through a NBFC, a non-banking financial corporation. What happens primarily in this arrangement is your down payment, which is 20 to 30%, generally will be equivalent or lower than the subsidy that you will anyways get from the government. So let's say for a 100 kilowatt plant, my investment was 50 lakh rupees. मैंने down payment किया 15 lakh rupees का. The rest of it I got financed, right? After my plant is completed, it is commissioned. Within 2 to 3 months, I get 18 lakh rupees from the government. So my down payment is covered by the subsidy that I'm getting. The rest of the EMIs are generally offset by your monthly savings. So let's say आज की डेट पे आप 10 लाख रुपए के electricity pay कर रहे हो over a period. So let's say 1 lakh rupees per month for simpler calculation. Your monthly EMI will be around 90,000 rupees, whereas you save 1 lakh rupees. So net as a society, you do not have to at every progress, right? Without investing from your funds, you're actually cash positive. आपने जो down payment किया, that got covered by the subsidy amount that the government is giving. And the EMI is basically being financed by the energy savings that you're doing on a monthly basis. So depending on the tariff that you pay, right? In Pune, you can go for a 2-year loan period. In Mumbai, you can go for a 3-year loan period. In Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad, you can go for a 5-year loan period. In all these arrangements, आपका मोटा, this is how the system's finances will look like. Your down payment will be compensated by your subsidy, and your monthly EMI will be compensated by the electricity bill that you will be seeing. तो आप आज की डेट पे 1 लाख रुपए डिस्कॉम को पे करो, उससे बेटर है आप 90,000 रुपीज का EMI पे कर लो and save that 1 lakh rupees of savings. So this is through that. Generally, we have seen nationalized banks say loan लेना बहुत मुश्किल होता है. But one facility that every bank will provide to a housing society is OD over FD. So let's say I have an FD of 10 lakh rupees with a society. Generally, 1% above the applicable FD rate, वो मेरे को loans दे देंगे. This is a very cheap way to get loans for your society. जिससे आपकी FD भी नहीं टूटती, but you get cheaper loans. NBFC loans are generally in the range of 15 to 19% on reducing balance, translate to 8.5 to 9.5% flat interest rate every month. OD over FD is much cheaper. So as a housing society, you do not have to worry about, how do I finance the project, right? आप इन तीनों में से कोई भी financing option select कर सकते हो, right? You don't have to worry about it. Depending on कि आपके finances कैसे, आप क्या break evens दे रहे हो, pros and cons हर system के available है, right? You can look at this example, net example. In a CAPEX, your initial investment, which is highlighted in slide red, is higher, but your net savings is very, very high, right? Whereas in OPEX, you will see the initial investment is very, very low, but your savings are also low. और अगर आप ZIP पे देखोगे, जीरो इन्वेस्टमेंट प्लान, विच इज द लोन प्लान, आपका इन्वेस्टमेंट एक्चुअली नेगेटिव है, क्योंकि आप दे तो 15 लाख रुपए दे रहे हो, गवर्नमेंट आपको 18 लाख रुपए दे रही है, राइट? सो ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ 6 months, लेट्स से आपने आज पैसा दिया है, 3 महीने आपके प्लांट को लगने में लग गए, उसके 3 महीने और एक्स्ट्रा लग गए, मान लीजिए सब्सिडी आने में. Over a 6-month period, you are actually getting some cash back in your society's fund. And of course, the net savings are also much higher. Because all the savings under this plan are used. आपको टैरिफ में से अगर आपकी बिजली 21 रुपए की है, तो every unit of electricity saved, you actually save up 21 rupees. And once the loan tenure is completed, like I said, in Pune, generally, because the tariff is 21 rupees, 2 साल में ही आप tenure पे this arrangement will work. In Mumbai, 3 years. In Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi, 5 years. It will work. Because these are just financial models, right? So, like I said, when you're looking at going solar, first select the right capacity for your solar plant. Ensure कि आप जब अपनी requirements दे रहे हो, अपना vendor selection कर रहे हो, तो आप लोग सही requirements भेज रहे हो कि यार हमें ये सारी चीजें तो safety के हिसाब से चाहिए ही चाहिए. We do not want to be blindsided. We do not want issues 2 to 3 years down the line. Once you have done that, ask for quotations, get the right vendor in, select the right technology, etc. in case you want to understand more about solar panels, what are the options you have with solar panels, what are the options we have with solar inverters. We keep doing a lot of webinars on that as well. You can go to YouTube and search for those things. Select the right products, select the right maintenance plan, ensure safety. And the last bit is, after you have done all these things, then select the financing model, right? Some societies unfortunately fall into the peril financing model से start करती है. Like I said, पहले आपको अपना product choose करना है, and उसके बाद you can always select how you wanna finance your product, right? So that brings us to the end of this particular part. Any relevant questions, Neha, that we should pick here? Pause for like 30 seconds.
1 second. Now. So Abhijit is asking that is subsidy available on OPEX?
So sir, right now it is not available, right? July month में MNRE ने बहुत clearly categorically define किया था that the CFA, the central program, is only applicable for CAPEX projects and not for RESCO model. Recently, in the month of September, they have released a draft agreement, like I mentioned, जिसपे उन्होंने propose करा है कि इसमें भी हमें subsidy देनी चाहिए. But वो उसमें generally what happens is government releases a draft agreement so that other stakeholders of the industry, consumers can respond, give their own suggestions, and after that they take a final decision on it. I think 27 September उसका last date है. उसके बाद हमें पता चलेगा whether it's going ahead or not. आज की डेट पे नहीं है. कुछ लोग आपको बोलेंगे, but like I said, all of these are generally public. If you go to Google, you type CFA scheme, वहाँ पे आपको दिखेगा applicability. तो वहाँ पे उन्होंने clearly mention करा हुआ है कि रेस्को प्रोग्राम के अंदर applicable नहीं है.
Right. There's one more question. This gentleman is asking that in Mumbai, majority of the builders have not conveyed the land to the housing society. Is conveyance of land to housing society a compulsory requirement for OPEX model?
Sir, it is so. It is not mandatorily required that the land has to be covered given to the housing society. आपको ओसी मिल जाना चाहिए एंड आपको आपकी मैनेजमेंट कमिटी शुड बी रजिस्टर्ड, राइट? दीज टू आर द प्राइमरी रिक्वायरमेंट्स. इसके अलावा whether you go for an OPEX or a lending project, loan वगैरह, any lender will look at your financials. So 2-3 things that they will always check. A, आपकी सोसाइटी प्रॉफिटेबल है या नहीं है, right? Are you saving more than you're expending? What is your collection rate? What is your default rate? कि let's say you have 100 residents, आप एटलीस्ट उसमें से 85 to 90 लोगों से तो रेगुलरली मंथली लेवल पे पैसा इकट्ठा कर पा रहे हो. So they will ask for your last 2 to 3 years audit reports. They will also check how good the society is in paying its bills. So generally they will ask for electricity bills copies and they will check यार electricity bill वगैरह टाइम पे पे होता है या नहीं होता है, वहाँ पे डिफॉल्ट है नहीं है. Generally these are the considerations that they will have.
Great, Anshuman. I think we can move forward.
Super. So next, finally, सारा हो गया है. Now let me talk about what we have seen work for a housing society. The process for a housing society क्या ये step 1 2 3 4 5 6 अगर हमने करे, which will cover the systematic view for these things, right? The first is analyze your requirement, right? What do I mean by that? Figure out your last 1 year of consumption, right? By a rule of thumb, divide that overall annual consumption by 100 units, you will get your requirement as of today, right? My general advice to housing society is always ki almost every housing society in the next 5 years will install EV charging stations on their premises, because most of your residents will have electric vehicles. So in case you have plans for that, you can look for a 5 to 10% higher capacity also. That is just one part. Second, you have to look at the design capacity of your terrace, right? This is a problem that you will generally face in a city like Mumbai, where the societies are very, very vertical in nature, कि आपका requirement ज़्यादा है, but space कम है, right? So please get a proper design analysis done for your terrace, not only in terms, जैसे मैंने आपको बताया था कि not only in the terms कि कितनी capacity बैठ सकती है, but कितनी capacity सही से बैठ सकती है. What do I mean by सही से बैठ सकती है? We have to look यार उसमें पहला स्ट्रक्चरल सेफ्टी के हिसाब से कोई शॉर्टकमिंग्स तो नहीं है. सो फॉर एग्जांपल आई हैव सीन अ लॉट ऑफ इंस्टॉलेशंस जहां पे पैरापेट वॉल right, which is the horizontal wall that goes between the two columns, उससे support लेके हम structures खड़ा कर देते हैं. Now this is a very very risky strategy, right? Because वो parapet wall पे कोई load bearing element नहीं होता. तो आर वी ensuring कि यार सारा सेफ्टी के हिसाब से है नहीं है. The second thing that you have to take into consideration in your design is that your solar should not be in a shadow casting area. Now कई बार हमारे छतों पे बहुत सारे shadow casting objects होते हैं. There's lift room का height काफी ज्यादा होता है. There are water heat tanks, etc. Right? When you're installing a solar system, it is very very important that it is shadow free. Right? So two things you have to take in consideration on 21st June and 21st December. The longest days and the shortest days may morning 10 a.m. and evening 4 p.m. या 3 p.m. इन 4 टाइम स्लॉट्स पे 21st June, 21st December, 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. पे there's no shadow which is coming on your solar panels because shadow is like a cancer for your solar plant. अगर shadow आपके solar plant पे पड़ती रहेगी, it will impact your generation, but more importantly, it will damage your solar panels. And your solar panels damage will, just reduce the ROI of your system to absolute nothing, right? Your warranty will get void under in improper installation. So Sneha, can you just quickly run a example? This is, uh, can we enlarge this video, Sneha? I think, is it possible for us to do that?
Yes, yes, just give me.
So this is how a solar plant on a 100 kilowatt society looks like. This is a 105 kilowatt plant, 194 solar panels. So generally, if you can just help give us 1 minute. So I don't think so the video is running. Yeah. So you can all observe that, depending on the shadow casting areas, different areas will have different uh, elevated heights. All your solar panels should generally be facing the south. Yeah, right. So this is generally a visual representation of, how a society might go ahead. Super. Thanks, Neha. I hope this kind of gives us some reference point. So if you can go to the previous slide. So once we have started and decided that my design capacity, how much is my requirement, how much can be kept upon, generally go to your AGM, take a quantitative quote in terms of break evens, what does my ROI look like, take an approval. Third, most critical important is create a checklist of common requirements that you can float to all vendors, right? Because at the end of the day, when there are so many vendors available in the market, very, very important that you are able to take a very apple to apple decision comparison between different vendors, right? One of the most important thing is creating a RFQ properly with appropriate weightages to different aspects, right? जैसे हमने बात करी वेंडर के क्रेडेंशियल्स को लेके, सेफ्टी एस्पेक्ट्स को लेके, टेक्नोलॉजी फाइनेंसिंग ऑप्शंस को डिफरेंट लेके, वेटेजेस लेके प्रिपेयर एन आरएफक्यू प्रो यूरोप, which will cover all those things. At the end of this webinar, we'll also be sharing a sample RFQ with all of you. These are RFQs that we have prepared with multiple housing societies that we have worked with to ensure that when they call for a tender or when they call for multiple quotes, they just release this RFQ and every vendor has to just comply with the terms and conditions of the RFQ, right? So at the end of the day, वो apple to apple comparison कि भाई ये क्या दे रहा है, वो क्या दे रहा है, becomes very, very simple. The decision making becomes much more simpler for a housing society, right? Once you have floated the RFQ, call for quotations, minimum 3, right? I would also say at max 10. है ना, उससे ज़्यादा पे then it's all not quite worth it. I think 3 to 10 is a good number of quotations that you should seek out based on the RFQ that you have submitted. Once that is done, if you can move to step 5, right? Generally do, a one-to-one meetings with the vendors, understand what are they quoting, what are the things that they're able to, give, comply with and non-comply with in the RFQ. And then, like I said, absolutely, absolutely must. Let's say you call for 10 vendors, you have shortlisted 3 of them. I know it becomes difficult कि society के members को एक साथ इकट्ठा करके we have to take them to a site, but you are taking a huge step on your society's behalf. It's a project worth lakhs of rupees. Do take out one Saturday, or one weekday where you're actually able to go and visit at least 2 sites of those vendors, which are at least 18 to 24 months old, right? Because that is where you'll know the true reality of how that experience at the solar plant has been doing. Because ultimately, 2 years, 3 years down the line, even if you're not part of the management committee, everybody will associate this decision with you, right? So thoda due diligence to banta hai. Whenever we buy a car or anything, we always do a test drive. This is a project much, much more expensive, so we should also do the same here, right? So that's that. Uh, like I said, in principle approval, आपके पास AGM पे आ गया. A lot of you already have AGM approvals. A lot of you are looking at solar within the next 30 to 60 days. So I'm assured you are going there. Form a solar committee, people who are dedicatedly working towards it. Float an RFQ. We will also share a sample RFQ. It has nothing related to SolarSquare at all, right? It doesn't talk about the proprietary technologies of SolarSquare, etc. Anyways, it's a sample open to use editable RFQ that you can use. So it gives you a starting platform to start with. A lot of times you can also look at a solar advisor consultant to help you do all those things. And like I said, ensure that you have a lot of consensus around this, right? So share case studies of other societies that have gone among the residents. आजकल तो अपना अड्डा ऐसे काफी common platforms होते हैं where residents keep talking about with each other. Do share, let's say, common FAQ. So we also at the end of this session will provide you an FAQ on most of these questions that we have answered. You can float that. You can float case studies of other societies that have gone solar. It builds more confidence and consensus among the residents. Ultimately makes the whole process much more seamless and smoother.
Right. Anjuman, let's just take a quick understanding of, how many, society members already have AGM approvals. So participants, if you could just quickly answer the question that is on your screen right now. Do you already have AGM approvals?
Very excited to see the results.
Yeah, so right now,
One option we
39.
might have, why we should have probably added is if you have an AGM lined up within the next 7 to 15 days.
Yeah, yeah, we'll do that next time.
What are the results?
Right, I'm just sharing the results. As you can see on the screen, 37% have said that they already have AGM approval and 63% have said no. So I think that the tips and the RFQ template would sort of help the 63% that don't have AGM approvals yet.
So I hope this session has kind of given some insights. I know it's a little short tenure. Feel free to reach out to us if you need more guidance, but we will share, happy to share case studies, FAQs, RFQs. Please let us know in the chat box if there's any other documents that you think you would require. And we would generally be very, very happy to share those, basic templates that will enable you to take an AGM approval for going solar. As much as I would want everybody to go solar with SolarSquare, But our ulterior game is, we want everybody to go solar. As long as we are able to help you, take that process, we will be very, very happy that half of our job is done. So please feel free to give us feedback in terms of do you feel that there's more material that we can provide which will enable you to build consensus, get AGM approvals quicker. We will do all in our facilities to provide you with that. So I think this is a very quick update. So very, very honestly, right? All the things that I said, maintenance, safety ko leke, of course, we at SolarSquare are very, very paranoid about safety and maintenance of plants. We have been working in this industry for the last 10 years, right? So I would not spend a lot of time. This is not a platform to promote SolarSquare, but quickly taking you through uh, all the things that I've described. What does SolarSquare do? So we are, like I said, we are very paranoid about safety and quality of our solar plants. This is not only said by us. There are world agencies which have certified SolarSquare's plants as the best in the world. So UL, it is a underwriters laboratory. It's a approximately 130-year-old US based agency. These are the UL is considered the most stringent uh, rating agency in the world, right? So airplanes, Apple products are tested by UL. UL has certified our plants as adhering to the best standards, right from procurement to installation to documentation to maintenance, right? Talking about TUV, a lot of you already know this is again somewhere close to 100 years old German brand. I think 85, 90 years old German brand. All BMW cars have to be certified by TUV. In the beginning of the session, I had mentioned this society called Godrej Infinity, which recently got a 70 lakh subsidy. To be on a safer side, because it was a 400 kilowatt project, they paid money to TUV to act as consultants from them on this particular project. So TUV was authorizing every step of the process of SolarSquare, right, to pull us up, right, to ensure that we don't mess up. We had a fantastic experience with them. They certified our plant as adhering to the best standards. Confederation of Indian Industry (CII) this year itself, they looked at around 200 biggest players in the solar EPC industry, and they awarded us the best on safety and quality across these 200 vendors pan India. More importantly, a lot of my time I spend about safety of structures, etc. SolarSquare is the only company in India whose solar structures have been certified by IIT Bombay to withstand wind speeds of upwards of 170 kilometers per hour. So these are cyclo-proof. These are nut and bolt systems. There is no welding customization on your side. These are IKEA-like products which are made in a central factory, designed there. They are just shipped to your site, and through nut and bolt they're fixed up, right? This is a sample example of the kind of structures that we use. We call them WindPro mount. Uh, so all of these are hot dip galvanized iron with 80 micron coating, primarily because 3 micron coating gets evaporated every year due to environmental factors. So over a 25-year period, this 80 micron coating acts as a sacrificial layer. We use virgin steel only, and we only use from like the top steel manufacturers, JSW, Tata Steel, SR. Like I said, all of these are nut and bolt systems. We use a Japanese philosophy. So one of our founders studied in Japan and also worked. He was heading Panasonic's R&D center into energy systems, Nikhil. So he's very, very, brings a lot of Japanese philosophy to our work. So we follow something called a Poka-yoke method of solar installation, which is primarily a philosophy that your system should be built in such a place कि उसमें manual errors का problem ना हो. What do I mean by that? अगर आप देखोगे कोई भी rafter purlin, it will only assemble in the right order and in the right place. Otherwise, the system itself will never fix up, right? So either it will get assembled in a proper way, it will not assemble at all, right? So this is because we do it at scale. These kind of focus allows us to sleep very peacefully at night, knowing our plants are safe. Last, like I said, now this is an example of a penetrative method. We have drilled into the mother slab to provide strength. we have used Hilti chemical anchoring to ensure that there's no water leakage in this terrace, right? So all these things are there. Last, we talked a lot about how do you safeguard your savings. So other than all the things that we talked about, the right product, electrical audits, etc., SolarSquare also gives a generation guarantee to its customers. We do this across all our residential housing societies projects as well, wherein we give a guarantee in terms of the number of generation that you will do over a period of 5 years. And if there is any lack of production, right? कोई रीजन हुआ जिसकी वजह से आपका प्रोडक्शन कम हुआ, राइट? तो उसकी भरपाई सोलर स्क्वायर करती है at a fixed tariff of 8 rupees. So let's say we installed a project and we said over a period of 5 years you will get 1 lakh units or 10 lakh units, but आए आपके 9.5 lakh units. So ये 50,000 units का जो delta है ना, solar square will pay from our end, right? Ultimately, this ensures that you have your ROI, your break-even periods are fixed, right? And if you have, issues with returns, मतलब, तो solar square आपको दे. This is solar square skin in the game, right? We will be there till the time we deliver this on time. So this is a product that we have specifically curated to ensure the decision making around solar is easier, right? So because ultimately you guys are answerable to your residents, we want to ensure we protect you from all sides. Correct. We talked about maintenance. Very quickly take you through maintenance as well. What I have seen, O&M, operations and maintenance, yeah, AMC, annual maintenance contract, are a very abused word in solar industry, right? From vendor to vendor, उसकी definition ही change हो जाती है, क्या क्या होता है. When I look at maintenance, I see at least 6 things which should be covered under maintenance, right? There are at least 6 things which need to be covered. One is corrective maintenance. कि यार मेरे plant में, my plant has broken down, there's some issue. The vendor should be readily available to safeguard your, correct any problem. This is a very basic AMC that any vendor will give, right? Second, and more critical, is preventive maintenance. See, this is a operating live plant, correct? Before anything goes wrong, you need to have a preventive mechanism of checking any potential problems, ताकि आप उसको root cause पहले ही rectify कर लीजिए. So generally, a quarterly preventive maintenance is good. Under this maintenance, you should do a mechanical testing of the stability of the solar plant as well as electrical testing. कि all my electrical points are working fine, मेरे हर things सही है, all those things. Inverter में कोई current leakage वगैरह तो system पे नहीं हो रहा है. ये पहले ही कर लेना चाहिए before anything bad happens. Generally, on a quarterly level, if you do it, you are good. Third component is remote monitoring. Now, what happens is once you install a plant, you'll probably monitor it for the first week. You'll monitor it for first month, 2 months, 3 months. After that, you will not look at what your plant is doing. Ask your vendors to ensure that there's a remote monitoring mechanism where they are checking the generation daily. And if there are gaps, they're able to communicate to the housing society, right? So as a housing society, every inverter, every vendor will give you access to one app where you'll be able to see the generation, etc. But आपको proactively कैसे पता चलेगा कि आपका plant कब produce कर रहा है? I think that is the responsibility of the installer. क्योंकि आप लोग तो एक बार decision लेके it is your time to sit back and enjoy the benefits. The vendors are there in the business of running the business, so they should be looking after that. Very, very important is professional cleaning, right? So what do I mean by professional cleaning? So you can see one of these examples. There is certain elements that you have to consider while cleaning a plant, right? अभी ये plant operational है. You need to have right safety equipments. You need to use the right brush. Even the brush that you use to clean plants, it has like all module manufacturers define कि भाई इतने micro brush, इतने micro brush होना चाहिए, इतने nanometers के उसके brushes का diameter होना चाहिए for cleaning the plant so that there's no damage to the solar panels. How much pressure you have to put, what are the right mechanism. For example, you cannot buy. Never ever should you climb onto your solar panels, right? It just damages, kills the solar cells inside it. So ensure that there's regular cleaning, क्योंकि अगर आपके plant की cleaning नहीं होगी, there's be a lot of dust accumulation, dirt accumulation that will happen on it. and it will affect the generation. So very, very important you look after it. At SolarSquare, our recommendation is to do this cleaning every 15 days, right? Next is savings guarantee. Like I said, take some sort of commitment in terms of ultimate generation. The vendor should have a skin in the game. Till the time at least आपका break even या उसका 2x आपका recovered ना हो जाए. Otherwise तो मतलब how do you ensure कि यार वो आपको he will hold on to your promises. Last is your system warranty. Now your solar plant has literally hundreds of components, right? इसमें से जनरली दो ही चीजों की वारंटी कंपोनेंट में वारंटी एप्लीकेबल होती है. One is solar panels which generally come with a 12-year warranty and your solar inverters which will come with a 5+ year warranty. None of the other components have any warranty component. They are more liable to get damaged during the life of the period. So always ask, other than the solar panel and the warranty, what is the coverage of the rest of the plant, which covers your cables, SPDs, everything, right? All of this should also be covered. So any repair, replacement cost should also be considered, right? So AMC, quickly recap, look at it from 6 perspectives. Corrective maintenance, कि कुछ भी खराब हुआ देखने आ गया. Preventive maintenance, nipping the problems at the bud, checking it beforehand. Remote monitoring, somebody monitoring the performance of your plant on a daily level to ensure कि कहीं पे भी generation कम है तो proactively उसको raise कर ले, because once those days are gone, right, you cannot recover. Tomorrow you cannot put up another solar, another sun in the sky to get 2x the generation. Generation तो आपको वही रहने वाला है. तो आपके प्लांट का डाउन टाइम ना है तो उसके लिए बहुत जरूरी है. Fourth, very, very the most important thing, preventive, professional cleaning fortnightly. Look at your generation guarantees and look at your warranty coverage, your system coverage. So 6 items under AMC. Do not make the mistake of just asking कि हमें 5 साल का AMC चाहिए या we want 1 year AMC. Please define AMC should cover all these 6 things, right? क्योंकि AMC के perspective, its meaning changes from vendor to vendor. So we are always better to break it down into certain components so that everything is covered.
All right. Thank you, Anshuman. Anshuman, very quickly, we'll just take some questions. Anil ji has asked, is it recommended to plant solar panels on an elevated paneled rooftop with cleaning access to all panels? Is mechanized motorized cleaning enough for solar panel cleaning, or does it require manual cleaning?
So couple of questions within that particular question, right?
Yeah.
So first question is elevated structures है हमें इसलिए use करने पड़ते हैं because you generally have shadow casting objects on your terrace, right? You will have the lift room, etc. And like I said, it's very, very important to not have any shadow falling on your solar panel, right? So that is why we used elevated structures. You need to give an access to reach every nook and corner of your solar panel for it to be cleaned, right? तो आपको याद होगा, and if we have time, we'll play the video again. If you see in that array, right, we have left one panel space empty in between so that anybody can climb from center and just clean it in 360 degrees. Your third part was, I have heard that a lot of players use, sprinkler systems, right? Automated sprinkler systems which clean the plant on its own. Unfortunately, those systems do not work on solar. It is very, very clear these do not work on solar. There are certain problems with those sprinkler automatic water cleaning systems, right? ये होता क्या है, आपके जो स्प्रिंकलर सिस्टम्स होते हैं, बिकॉज सोलर सिस्टम इज एन एरे, राइट? आपका ये जो स्प्रिंकलर सिस्टम है, इट क्रिएट्स अ शैडो ऑन द सोलर पैनल्स अहेड ऑफ इट, और वो हार्ड शैडो इट विल डैमेज योर सोलर प्लांट. वन प्रॉब्लम इज दैट. सेकेंडली, क्योंकि आपका स्प्रिंकलर सिस्टम एक ही टाइम पे एक ही डायरेक्शन में पानी देता रहता है, it doesn't reaches all the nooks and corners, and all the sand, all the dust accumulates at the end of the solar panel. तो अगर आप देखेंगे ना सोलर पैनल में, there is a silver casing that is done at the end. ये सारा का सारा डस्ट ना इसके एंड्स पे आके लोएस्ट लाइन ऑफ सोलर पैनल्स पे accumulate हो जाता है. Again, it leads to deterioration of performance and your panels getting damaged. And the third part is, ultimately, sprinkler systems most of the time do not even have the right pressure to remove dust as well as chemical deposition, right? इसी वजह से आप देखेंगे even in economies like US, Europe, right, where the cost of labor is very, very high, even there, even today, solar panels are cleaned manually. So if there was a system, an efficient system of cleaning plants automatically, तो सबसे पहले US and Europe में install होता, वहाँ पे भी आज की डेट पे भी manual cleaning होता है. That being said, there are some robotic systems that are being tested in the market where there's a robot which goes on the solar panels and cleans it up. Today, उसकी viability we are also checking, sir. तो cost and viability check हो रही है. So that might be an efficient system, right? But till then, mechanical cleaning is the preferred mode.
Right. Anjuman, Mr. Gyansham ji has asked that could you please explain the difference between string inverter and N-phase microinverter?
Okay, so I will take a very quick example of this. So primarily when we're talking about solar inverters, now when I look at a solar plant, right, your solar structures, the elevated structures are like your backbone, right? They support the whole system. These solar panels, like, are primarily your brain, right, which is producing all these inputs and processing it, etc. Your inverter is the heart of the solar system, right? It ensures how efficiently the system works. So very, very important we understand the inverters. There are three types of technologies when it comes to solar inverters, right? And these are generational technologies. So the base technology is called a string technology. It is the oldest among the current technologies, also the cheapest and the very prevalent also. In a string technology, what happens is 19 to 20 solar panels are connected on a single string. So one way of thinking of this is you have 20 solar panels, they are connected in a single series connection. Okay, one after the other. Now what happens is, because there's a series connection, the current output of each panel has to be the same. It always has to be the same. So let's say you have 20 panels. Each panel can produce 4 units of electricity at any moment of time. This is just an example, not an actual scenario. 4 units of electricity at any moment of time. But there is one panel out of this 20 which is only producing 1 unit of electricity. हो सकता है उस पे shadow ज़्यादा आ रही है, हो सकता है उस पे कुछ malfunction हो गया है. But your solar system, this panel will impact all the other 19 solar panels also, and they will also produce 1 unit of electricity only. So your solar system, which should have produced 19 into 4, which is 76 units, plus 1 unit, 77 units, will end up producing only 20 units. ये limitation है string inverters का. Specifically in larger projects which are very distributed, ये limitation काफी harmful रहता है. कई बार plants पे थोड़ा बहुत shadow भी आ रहा होता है, तो वहाँ पे भी string inverters limit हो जाते हैं. To compensate for this, there was another technology which was developed, which is called power optimizer technology. It is patented by an Israeli company called SolarEdge. They are Nasdaq listed. उन लोगों ने क्या किया, इन्वर्टर तो रखा, बट उन्होंने मॉड्यूल लेवल पे एक ऑप्टिमाइजर्स क्रिएट किए. नाउ दीज ऑप्टिमाइजर्स कैन बी कनेक्टेड 2:1 रेशियो, कि 2 मॉड्यूल का एक ऑप्टिमाइजर लगा दिया ऐसे करके. व्हाट हेल्प्स इन दिस सिनेरियो इज, rather than 20 panels in one string, आपके सिर्फ 2 पैनल एक स्ट्रिंग पे रहते हैं. So it gives you benefits कि आपका सिस्टम more optimally run होता है. Secondly, the system allows you to see the output of every solar panel in real time. In a string inverter आप एक solar panel का output नहीं देख सकते, आपको पूरा black box system का output दिखता है. Whereas in a optimizer like technology, you are able to see module level visibility. इसके ऊपर जो एक और टेक्नोलॉजी आती है, which is the best in the world and also expensive, it is called micro inverters. Now these were patented by a US company called Enphase. They're also Nasdaq listed. They're the most profitable company in the world, like solar company in the world. So what Enphase does is it eliminates any DC current on your terrace. So they have an iPad like product which is called a microinverter. ये आपके solar panel के नीचे connect हो जाता है. What it does is, as the word micro enables, it makes it a very modular system. Every solar panel works on its own, right? So 20 solar panels work on their own. They're optimized. You get absolute module level visibility, etc. Enphase microinverters also come up with warranties up to 25 years. So primarily it's those difference. Again, short में summarize करता हूँ. String inverters work on smaller system sizes and bigger system size. सब ऑप्टिमल रन होते हैं, आउटपुट को इम्पैक्ट करते हैं, डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड सिस्टम नहीं होता है. एक और लिमिटेशन जो बहुत बड़ा है स्ट्रिंग इन्वर्टर्स का इज प्राइमरली दैट let's say 10 years down the line, you need a higher capacity system क्योंकि आपका consumption बढ़ गया society का. Now, क्योंकि string inverter में सारे panels का output has to be the same. 10 years down the line, even if you have higher efficiency solar panels, you cannot connect them to this system. क्योंकि उसका output तो वो lowest performing वाले से ही देना पड़ता है. This is where Enphase micro inverters are really helpful. क्योंकि 5-10 years down the line, even if you install the latest technology of solar panel, you just insert a micro inverter within itself. It works independently. Because of the module level visibility that an optimizer level and Enphase gives, because of the safety features. So another benefit of both optimizer technology and inverter technology is its anti-arcing mechanism. So basically होता क्या है, अगर आपके इन्वर्टर साइड पे कोई भी प्रॉब्लम हो जाता है, शॉर्ट सर्किट हो जाता है ना, so you get something called a DC fire. Now DC fire is not something which can be easily extinguishable by throwing water also. तो वो आपके सोलर पैनल्स को आग लगा देता है ना, the whole solar panels get damaged. Both microinverter and optimizers have anti-arcing mechanism within which, as soon as there's any short circuit in the system, it automatically shuts down the output of the solar panel to 1 volt and helps prevent any issues of fire or the panels getting damaged. Because of these reasons, in the retail side of the business, Enphase and SolarEdge have up to 90% market share in countries like US, Europe, and Australia. So these are the later technologies. Because you're looking at 25 years, our recommendation is also to go with either with Enphase or SolarEdge microinverter optimizer technologies. These are products that you can look at bigger project sizes. But if you're looking at 10-15 kilowatt project sizes, even a string inverter does well. Over that, the limitations become more profound.
Great, great. Thank you, Anshuman. Harshi has asked that could you explain the difference between DCR and non-DCR solar panels in terms of output generation? So that's first part. And he also mentioned that one vendor has mentioned to him that non-DCR panels offer better solar unit generation compared to DCR panels. Can you provide a technical response based on your experience?
So I think the statement that DCR solar panels perform worse than non-DCR solar panels used to be true about 2 years back, right? Why 2 years back? Because the technology of solar system that we use, which is called monopack bifacial, right? It came to India in 2022, but globally it came across 2018, 2019. तो हुआ क्या, सबसे पहले Chinese players which have big production facilities, they started building these solar cells. Generally, a new technology takes anywhere between 2 to 3 years to like just kind of stabilize, right? एक साल के operation के बाद पता चलता है कैसे करें, then you do rectification. So when this technology, Indian solar cell manufacturers started producing this in late 2021, I think October 2021 ke around, they started manufacturing these things. It took some time for them to, come up with the best practices and control mechanism, right? However, like I said, we have an experience of approximately 120 megawatts with non-DCR and 30 megawatts with DCR solar panels. Today's technology, Indian solar panels perform as well as non-DCR solar cells. They do the same thing. And that is why we are also able to commit our, money on generation, right? Because we commit the generation will be high. Today, you will not see. Couple of things that you have to consider while buying a solar panel. Since you're on the discussion, I'll just take 2 minutes. There is something called as electroluminescence testing of a solar panel, right? So, Sneha, will it be possible for you to play a small video?
Yes, yes.
I think
I'll
your notes
share
will
the
be fine. Since we are talking about the solar panel selection, let me just take 2 minutes and answer that question.
one minute. I'm just sharing my screen.
So this is something called as electroluminescence testing that every panel has to be done. basically what we do here is you take a solar panel to a dark room, right? And you reverse feed the current inside it. तो आप देखते हो कि यार करंट कौन कौन से पार्ट से द करंट इज गोइंग थ्रू विच पार्ट्स ऑफ द सोलर पैनल टू आइडेंटिफाई इज द सोलर पैनल करेक्ट और नॉट, right? So as I mentioned, never ever walk on a solar panel. See, this is what happens when you walk on a solar panel. All these dark spots are areas which are getting damaged, right? These are the parts where the electricity flow is not happening, right? Now, walking like this or maintaining like this is something which can cause micro cracks. These are cracks which are not visible to a naked eye, but cell level pe these create these issues. So one of the things that we should always take care of, please ask your vendors to submit the electroluminescence reports for each of your solar panel, right? So that you know कि none of your solar panels got damaged during transportation also. अभी होता क्या है? Any tier one company solar panels on the factory floor, everybody's panels are the same. I can honestly say. हमने सबकी other than Adani, we have audited everybody's factory, right? Adani ने permission नहीं दिया है, but we have seen and audited everybody's factories ourselves because the technology is very stable. Everybody follows the same process. The factory level पे all tier one panel manufacturers का panel सही है. प्रॉब्लम क्या होता है? वहां से आपकी साइड पर लाते हुए वो किसी डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर के पास गया, डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर ने किसी और को बेचा, किसी ने बेचा, वो बीच में कैसे once it comes from the factory floor is transported properly covered, protected under a pallet, but at every step of the supply chain it is broken down and opened from the pallet. और वहां पे फिर ट्रांसपोर्टेशन पे, हैंडलिंग पे ये बहुत सारे माइक्रो क्रैक्स आ जाते हैं. So please ask for these images. Tomorrow, even if you have to have a claim, these will come in handy. So at
Great.
SolarSquare, just to add, we do this testing for all the solar panels from our manufacturers, and we reject based on these. So you get like a report of each electroluminescence testing. We have a centralized team who goes through each and every image and certifies कि आपके छत पे जो solar panel आ रहा है, it doesn't have any micro cracks. We ship directly from the manufacturer to your place to reduce the risk of any like damage during the transportation process. And of course, we also have very strict SOPs on installation to ensure कि there's no damage during installation as well. Only because we take care of this end-to-end process, am I able to give a commitment on the unit generation? Because अगर panel में कुछ खराब रहा, तो उसमें problem आएगा. So we take care of these things. Harsh.
Great. Last two questions. One is, could you provide more information about the quality and materials of the structures used by SolarSquare for solar installations?
So a couple of things. Couple of things I think very important when we talk about structures. पहला तो है, you need a hot dip galvanized iron. A lot of times people use pre-GI, normal GI. These are prone to rusting. और जहां पे रस्ट हुआ तो वहां से प्लांट की इंटेग्रिटी भी डैमेज हो गई. ऑल्सो दिस रस्ट कैन पर्कुलेट इनटू योर सोलर पैनल्स. तो पहला तो वो है. सो वी यूज हॉट डिप गैल्वेनाइज्ड आयरन विद 80 माइक्रोन कोटिंग. नाउ दिस 80 माइक्रोन कोटिंग इज अ सैक्रिफिशियल लेयर कि भाई ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम एयर रेजिस्टेंस की वजह से थोड़ा थोड़ा चिप होता रहता है. जनरली until unless it's a very corrosive area, 3 micron coating gets evaporated every year. So even after 25 years वो रहता है. Third important thing to consider is even the nut and bolts that we use in the solar system, right? Generally they should be SS grade, stainless steel grade. क्योंकि उनमें भी अगर रस्टिंग आ गया ना तो भी आपके पैनल्स में वो रस्ट घुसने का प्रॉब्लम है. एंड लास्ट बट equally critical is the design of the structures itself. मतलब think of this, if I am building a building, right? Even if I use the best cement, even if I use the best quality, columns, if my design is not stable, right, it will not suffice. And hence there's something called a STAT report which has to be submitted. Ask for those things. कि भाई, what is the design element? What is the load bearing capacity for my plant? वो इन panels का weight ले पाएगा नहीं ले पाएगा, वो किस wind zones के लिए? Those are also important. But generally, like I said, hot dip galvanized iron, preferably virgin steel. with 80 micron coating. To either go for a non-penetrative method, which is a little costlier, but okay, or go for chemical anchoring. You can use Hilti the best. You can also use players like Fisher and all. Third part, nut and bolt should be stainless steel. And like I said, the rest of the thing, the design has to be made properly as per standards. It's
Right,
IS, by repeat, it's IS 875 part 3, which will define the wind zones for your particular city.
right. Last question. Is it necessary to hire an authorized electrical contractor for third-party inspection of the solar system in compliance with IEC 62446 Part 1 standards?
No, sir, it is not a mandatory requirement. It is something that you can do just for your, just for your heart satisfaction. It is not a mandatory requirement.
All right, I'll just quickly go through. Anshuman, is there any maximum allowable height for solar structure elevation?
So, sir, it depends. In Mumbai, BMC has defined it. Uh, then in certain, generally there's no like limit on this. In Mumbai डिफाइन करी गई है क्योंकि अभी ये सारे इश्यूज आ गए थे तो उसकी वजह से बिकेम प्रेवलेंट. तो 6 फीट के ऊपर आप नहीं कर सकते. Then in for example in Bangalore and other regions, if you live near an airport, तो वहाँ पे कुछ limitations होती है to the elevations कि 9 फीट के ऊपर आप नहीं लगा सकते. But generally otherwise there's no limitation as long as you're, again, like I keep reiterating, your system is designed for elevation. Wind zone आपके कितने फ्लोर्स की हाइट है और कितना हाइट पे आप स्ट्रक्चर लगा रहे हो. तो 6 फीट के स्ट्रक्चर और 9 फीट के स्ट्रक्चर में जमीन आसमान का डिफरेंस है. क्योंकि जब आपके स्ट्रक्चर्स पे प्रेशर आता है विंड का, सो इट कम्स एवरीवेयर, राइट. इट कम्स फ्रॉम ईस्ट टू वेस्ट, नॉर्थ टू साउथ, अपवर्ड्स एज वेल. तो उस पर टॉर्क बहुत ज्यादा लग जाता है विद एवरी इंक्रीमेंटल हाइट. तो वो डिजाइन उस हिसाब से होना चाहिए.
Right. All right. All right. I think we've come to the end of this webinar, Anshuman. There are still people who are with us. Any last thoughts from you? I think, if we have not covered anything or if you still have questions, please get in touch with us at 983,000 We're happy to help you out in any way possible. Anshuman, your last thoughts before we wrap up.
So first and foremost, I think we went a little overboard with time, but I'm very, very happy that a lot of you are still here asking very, very intriguing questions. So thank you so much for it, taking time on it on Sunday. You're doing a pro bono job. My request would be, please, one request I'll have, Sneha, if we can just open up some Q&A or chat box to ask for feedback in terms of
Sure.
what are the things that everybody liked, or are there certain things that they would like us to cover in a future webinar, or they think we should cover more to make it more informative. I think that will be very, very important.
Right, right.
First and foremost, you can, if you have already contacted SolarSquare at 983,000, they would already a group made with you. Feel free to ask for any document not related to even SolarSquare, right? Which you feel will help you as a management committee to take the decision faster, whether it's related to SolarSquare or not, that's secondary thing. जैसे मैंने बोला RFQ आपको चाहिए, आपको सैंपल रिपोर्ट चाहिए, आपको केस स्टडीज चाहिए किसी हाउसिंग सोसाइटी का वही जनरेशन हुआ है, we will be more than happy to facilitate that. Our first endeavor is to ensure that आप लोग सोलर चाहिए. Other than just an economic benefit, it's absolutely critical for our environment, right? All of us are suffering through climate change. The poor are suffering more than us. It's people like us who are privileged enough to be able to do this, to just get on the bandwagon, and that is what drives us, that is what drives me, that's what drives everybody at SolarSquare. So anything that we can help you, we'll be very happy to do that. Feel free to reach out to us anytime for anything. We'll be there. Please give us your feedback. What are the things that you would like us to cover uh, for your, or you think that we could have done better? Please do help this. We keep doing these webinars on a fortnightly basis. And like I said, we plan to do it for a very long time so that, we are able to do that. Your feedback will be super critical for us. And thank you, Sneha, for setting all this up. Wasn't possible
No
without you.
problem.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anshuman, for taking the time out. Thank you, Munish, and everyone who's in the back end answering the questions. So audience, whoever is still with us, there's a question on your screen right now. What topics do you want us to cover next? Three of you have answered. Please feel free to give us feedback. We would love to sort of, like Anshuman said, incorporate your feedback and have more topics, integrated into our future webinars. We are doing this webinar almost every weekend. So whatever topics you want us to speak about, we would definitely, incorporate that on our content. All right. I think a lot of people are asking about RFQ. Anshuman, if you have an RFQ template, could you just quickly, I think I
And when you
have.
have that, you'll be able to share the screen. We can just
All
share
right.
it. I think everybody who's registered, let's email them and WhatsApp them. Let's also put this up in the chat box, the link, so that everybody can address right.
Right. Right. Would you want to take the host access? I can make you host so that.
Yeah, if you can, just make.
Yep.
So please tell me if my screen is visible.
One second. Yes, yes, your screen is visible.
Yeah. So this is a temple RFQ that I was talking about. Like I said, nothing to do with SolarSquare. It primarily covers everything. The capacity, etc., everything that you have to edit has been marked in yellow. Basically define the major scope of panels. You should require what are the pre-qualification criteria. This is an open document you can edit and use anytime. What are the employees, etc., we should have. What are the mechanical, electrical things, basic things that need to be taken, right? All of these are part and parcel of these things. You will see we have talked about the IA standards, wind speeds. Like I was taking off, the fast have to be made of SS304 grade. Minimum things in terms of what should be the minimum tonnage. For dead load, what should be the dead load, etc. What are the major compliances that have to be adhered? So structural components के ये compliance होना चाहिए, will load के लिए ये होना चाहिए. So that you can give this to a society members कि यार हमने इतना due diligence किया हुआ है. We'll ensure all our vendors follow these things, right? What are the balancer systems covered? कि क्या क्या चीज़ आपको क्लासीफाई करवा देनी चाहिए. अब मान लीजिए हमने सब चीज़ कर ली, बट हमने डीसी केबल अच्छी क्वालिटी की यूज़ नहीं करी है. इट इज़ नॉट जस्ट अबाउट द ब्रांड, राइट, बट ऑल्सो द साइज ऑफ द केबल, उसका करंट कैरिंग कैपेसिटी कितना है. तो वो सारी चीज़ें भी हमने इसमें कवर किया हुआ है. लाइक आई सेड, इट हैज नथिंग टू डू विद SolarSquare per se, warranties, etc. So we will share this. You can use this as the launching pad for creating your own RFQ, right? हमने क्लियरली मेंशन करा हुआ है कि क्या क्या डॉक्यूमेंट्स आपको लेने चाहिए उसके अगेंस्ट, right? All those things are kind of filled. It's a little longer. A lot of it is just admin work, but we wanted to make a very thorough, template that we can share. You can then edit it and use it for any purpose. I hope it helps, serve some purpose and save some time on your end.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Anshuman. In fact, we will share the recording and the RFQ template to
Okay.
everyone who has attended the webinar today, along with our like a guidebook for housing societies who wants to go solar. So, all right. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we're at the end of the webinar. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.